Well, greetings and salutations, everybody. My name's John Campea. Welcome to my movie vlog, and this is my review of the new Ava DuVernay directed film, A Wrinkle in Time, based, of course, on the novel. Now, this is a movie that has gotten a lot of chatter and a lot of buzz ever since they announced that they were going to be making it, who the cast involved was. Obviously, you got Oprah and Mindy Kaling and Reese Witherspoon. The fact that you got Ava DuVernay directing it, it was a popular book. Some people consider it to be an unfilmable book. I remember when they first announced it, there was a lot of talk about it. Like, how the hell? I've never read it myself, but I remember a lot of conversations going around. How do you turn that into a movie? It's like almost unfilmable. Well, we were going to find out. So last night, I went to go see A Wrinkle in Time, and here are some of the good things about it. Number one, I've got to say this right off the top. This young girl in the lead, her name is Storm Reed. I know that sounds like a comic book superhero name, but her name is Storm Reed. And she plays Meg in the film, and she is fantastic. This little girl, if she wants, can be a major, major star. I bought into her completely all throughout the movie. There's even this one great scene between her and Chris Pine, who plays her dad, that was like, okay, this girl is acting beyond her years here. Like, really solid. Although I did have to admit, the fact that her name was Meg, Ann and I watched Family Guy, and there was a scene in the movie when somebody says, "Shut up, Meg," and Ann and I just looked at each other and went, she said, "Shut up, Meg." Anyway, Family Guy joke. So she was great. Also, this little dude who plays her brother, his name's Derek McCabe, and he plays her little brother in the movie, adopted little brother. And his name in the movie is Charles Wallace. And nobody calls him Charles. Nobody calls him CW. They just call him Charles Wallace, Charles Wallace, Charles Wallace throughout the entire film. And again, for a young child actor, this kid crushed it. He was charming and adorable, and he was like doing lines. He's like, wow, this is like way beyond. And just really, really nice. Now, I also mentioned, if I want to talk about the things that I really liked about the film, there was this great scene between Storm Reed and Chris Pine. The dynamic and the relationship between father and daughter, I felt it. I really did. Chris Pine has evolved into a fine actor. I mean, he's always been good, but Chris Pine has seriously evolved into a fine actor, like a really good actor. And the dynamic that he and Storm Reed were able to generate between themselves as a father and daughter dynamic and relationship, I thought just absolutely crushed it, like absolutely killed it. And I appreciated that very well. Also, I should mention this. The visual effects in this movie are wonderful. The visual design, I should say, let me rephrase that. The visual design is breathtaking and beautiful. Like a lot of the trailers gave that away, that there are some absolutely stunningly beautiful things to look at in this movie, and they absolutely do that. They do that very, very well. And I even got a kick out of the Fairy Godmothers. I'm sorry, these cosmic beings that were played by Oprah and Reese Witherspoon and Mindy Kaling. They were cute characters. They were neat when they were on stage. I particularly liked the Reese Witherspoon one. But also the Mindy Kaling one was pretty cool, and the Oprah one is kind of the wise sage one. And the Fairy Godmothers were pretty nice. They were pretty nice. Okay. Now, let me go into the things that I didn't like about this movie, and I will tell you right now, I don't like this movie. There are some very good things about it, but I don't like this movie. And by the way, I'm going to let you know, the reason I'm doing this little review live is so if you guys have any questions about anything that I overlook, feel free to ask the questions, and I'll get to your questions here in just a little bit. But first of all, let's talk about the Fairy Godmothers. I didn't read the book, so I don't know how integral they feel to the book, but I remember walking out, the first thing Anne said to me was, "So just me, or does the movie really feel like they didn't need to be there at all?" Like, yes, they do a couple of things, but they're things you could have easily written into the script, like the little girl figured out on her own. Storm Reed was so good, and I understand you got to follow the book, okay, but I'm just talking about the movie, okay? Storm Reed was so good, it almost would have felt better if she, being a prodigy of her own father, being able to figure out these little things, because ultimately, throughout the way, the Fairy Godmothers, and they're not really Fairy Godmothers, Anne just called them that, and it stuck with me. It just feels like they were just there to tell them one or two things that you could have figured out a world for Meg to figure out by herself. and pull the trigger on one or two little events. But for the most part, they were completely unnecessary. And they honestly felt like fluff just being there in the movie. Now, also, there's this big thing. The big thing in the universe is this darkness. There's this darkness that's spreading out throughout the universe, and it's called the It. Or was it called the Nothing? No, it's called the It. That's right. The Nothing is from that other movie. I kept expecting Falkor and Atreyu to show up in this movie and say, hey, kids, you need some help? Where's the Nothing? I'm sorry, I mean the It. It's not the Nothing, it's the It. And it's just like, oh my God. They gave no context to it whatsoever. And by the way, Academy Award nominated actor David Oyelowo did the voice of the It, even though the It only had like 4 or 5 lines in the movie, but I guess because he worked with Ava DuVernay, they got him to come in and do that. Okay, that's fine. But I mean, it was silly and ridiculous, but also just the storytelling itself was bad. I knew that this movie was going to be a rocky ride right from the beginning. The movie starts on the 4-year anniversary that their father goes missing, okay? And that's kind of the whole underlying premise of the film, is that the dad goes missing, and now it's 4 years later. And I kid you not, it almost felt like Ava DuVernay is a great, just watch Selma. There's no doubt she's a great filmmaker. But considering how good of a filmmaker she is, I am bewildered at some of the decisions she's made in this movie. Like, for instance, there's a scene, it's been 4 years since the dad disappeared, right? And so Charles is sitting there on a park bench, and behind him, 2 teachers completely oblivious, 4 years later, are talking about, oh, it's such a shame about Charles's dad. Yes, going missing. I wonder if he ran off with a woman. Like, explain-o-vision. They're just explaining everything, right? Oh, I don't know. Maybe he just disappeared, but he loved his kid so much. I can't believe he would just up and disappear. And poor Charles. He's such a prodigy. He's brilliant, but you can see it affect him. Yes, and his older sister Meg. Like, it just goes on, and I'm like, oh my God, this is grade school level filmmaking right here. And that type of thing happens throughout the entire movie. And then in the trailer, you probably saw the Zach Galifianakis character, completely unnecessary. Completely unnecessary. And then you got this Michael Pena character, again, completely unnecessary. And then Charles goes from good to bad, and it's like, wait a minute, that made no sense. And it's just, a lot of the movie feels like this random, jarbled, disjointed, and I'll use the word incoherent, like, scenes just kind of plopped willy-nilly throughout the movie. It just made no flow. It had no flow to it and made basically no sense. And before anybody goes, oh, no, John, you just didn't get it. No, I got it. It was just put together so poorly that it's almost unwatchable. If it wasn't for all those good things, terrific performances, cute characters, great dynamic between father and daughter, and some beautiful visuals to look at, if it wasn't for that good stuff, this film's basically unwatchable. And I just cannot believe that Ava DuVernay, a director, the level of talent that she has, that this is what they came up with. And again, look, I'm willing to pass a lot of this off to the fact that a lot of people thought long before this movie ever came out that this book was basically unfilmable. Then they should have just taken a pass on it. They should not have made this movie. And I should have had alarms going off because, Disney is the type of company that when they believe in their movie, they lift their review embargo like 3 weeks in advance. With this movie, they lifted it basically, 36 hours before the movie hits theaters publicly. And that was a warning bell for a lot of people when they saw that was the case. And yeah, it is a mess of a movie. It feels very amateurish in many ways. Narratively, just the way they handled certain things. Characters that were made to feel completely unnecessary. Going along in a series of events that just made no sense whatsoever. And it's just, like I said, it's almost an incoherent movie. And I can't recommend it. It's not going to, don't get me wrong. There's enough good stuff in here that I'm not going to say, oh, this is going to be one of the worst movies of the year. No, it's not going to be one of the worst movies of the year. It's just that I expected way more from this film. It looked like we could expect way more from this film. And yeah, ultimately I'm disappointed with the results that we got. I really am. I had some really good high hopes for this movie, but I walked out going, not good. And I think Disney knew that. That's why they held off the review embargo for so long. But listen, guys, I said I would take some questions that you guys might have. One or two of you sent in questions already you want me to address. This one comes from Lance Pro 85, who wrote in, how was the final antagonist? It was based on the book. It could really either be cheesy or well made. It was cheesy. I don't know the book. Again, I have not read the book, but it is your villain, right? And they give no context to the villain at all. The whole motivation of the villain seems to contradict itself several times throughout. And even why the villain has any connection to the Chris Pine character or the kids whatsoever is never made apparent. They allude to it a little bit, but even the thing they alluded to made no sense, like whatsoever. And the whole time, like the movie's starting to wrap up, and I'm like, why did they even make this movie? Like, I don't understand why they even made this movie. Let's see. Teeman Neville is asking in the chat there, how was the kid from Pan? Well, the kid he's talking about is Levi Miller. And Levi Miller played Peter in that bad Pan movie. He plays a character named Calvin, who just for some reason comes along for the ride. His whole purpose in this movie and how he gets into the purpose of the movie starts off with him just being in a place that Meg shows up one day and him going, I don't know why I'm here. I just suddenly felt the urge to be here, and so I came here. And that's it. Now he's part of the movie, and that's it. Him and this other kid know each other by name, but they don't really know each other at all, and yet somehow now he's a part of the adventure. And that was just so ridiculously handled. Let's see now. I'm going to see if I can... It's very tough for me to read the chat board because it's flying by so fast here. Anyway, I'll just leave it at that. This has already gone a little bit longer than I usually like to make my reviews. But, oh my goodness, yes. There was lots of potential there for A Wrinkle in Time. It was a challenging movie to make. An incredibly challenging movie to make. You can just tell that from the source material and how it kind of sputtered out on film. But at the end of the day, it's just not a film that worked. Not going to be one of the worst films of the year, nothing like that. There are definitely some highlights in the film for sure. This Storm Reed kid is a revelation, by the way. We're going to see her in a lot more stuff. But at the end of the day, I cannot recommend going out to see A Wrinkle in Time, and I wish I could because I love Disney films, but this is just not one I can recommend. Anyway, that will do it for me, guys. Thanks a lot for joining me for this little review of A Wrinkle in Time. Make sure you subscribe to my YouTube channel, click the thumbs up button, and make sure you come back and check out my videos every single day. That'll do it for me. Thanks a lot for checking me out, and until next time, bye-bye.